Joining us right now, State Representative John Patterson. John, how you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic.
I did not know you were out there till Andy told me that. Did you know John was here? And I go, no, I didn't see him peek in the window or anything. You've been here long?
Oh, long enough to understand that things are happening in Conneaut once more.
Well, I think things are going to happen, and I think it's going to come back around.
It truly is.
Yeah. You mentioned that maybe we would talk a little bit about economic development.
Yes, exactly, because that's the most important thing.
I'll turn it over to you. Maybe you can start the ball, and Debbie, I'll jump in if you don't mind.
Sure.
Right. Now, I want you to think about what we have as a district, that it's unique in Ohio. We have 3 scenic rivers, and that is important to the quality of life. We have 2, they call them deep water ports, but let's call them ocean ports. Let's think globally here. We have a major east-west, north-south railroad system. Mm-hmm. We have a major east-west, north-south highway system. We have an airport that is underutilized and has room for expansion. So the transportation is key. We also have the lake. Now, how does this all tie together? If you think about what's happening in California right now and how that's going to impact us, what is happening in California, my dear friend?
I don't know.
There's a drought.
There's a drought. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Worst ever.
what don't we have a shortage of?
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah.
And we have available tracts of land. And we have the ability to ship to half the U.S. population within 1 day's time. My point is, we have the potential here not only to feed our local restaurants, that whole locavore movement, with fresh fruits when they're in season, but definitely vegetables and dairy products and such. But we have the ability to feed the region and potentially to make a difference in other areas of the world, because there's 2 other components of this puzzle. Population estimates, by the year 2050, there'll be 9 billion people on the planet. Right now we're pushing 7. Mm-hmm. But if you also think about, and we don't need to get into the debate about climate change or what's causing it, but we do have verification that glaciers are melting. There's no doubt about that. We do have verification that deserts are growing larger. Food security is a major issue in the international community. There is always a demand for food. And my point is that we are uniquely situated. If we can get processing in here, we have the labor force, we have the land. If we can get processing into this region, we can do some great things. Now, let me give you just one small example of what I'm talking about. Within the Asheville area, do you like red meat, white meat? You tell me.
Both.
You like both. But what does your wife tell you that you need to eat more of and less of?
Well, she tells me that too much beef is not good for you.
The red meat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so she wants you to eat more chicken and fish.
Chicken and fish.
Because she loves you.
Yes.
Okay, so do we. In this area, there are 5 red meat processing centers that are functioning, and everything is lovely. But if you wanted white meat processed, fish or chicken, where's the nearest one? Where's the nearest processing center?
I have no clue.
It's in Holmes County. It's almost a 3-hour drive one way. So if you were going to raise chickens, now think white meat, and think about baby boomers aging, and think about the cholesterol and eating healthy. Our chicken farmers are well poised, and this is just one example, to make that contribution to the local agricultural community and the restaurants and such, and could be processed and shipped elsewhere. But they have to spend almost 3 hours on the road one way to take their chickens. And then it doesn't make sense, because it takes a day to process them, to stay there, so they come back. And then they go back again and pick them up and come back. They're wasting time on the road, and that drives up prices. We're looking, and I'm working closely with David Marison here. In fact, we have a food workshop coming up on March 18th. It's a Tuesday. And David told me just Saturday that we have locked down a food processor who's going to be webcasting in with us, so that we can have one of those portable white meat processing centers here.
Great, that would be super.
So it makes it more economical to look at white meat. Now let's look at chicken or fish for a moment. You know that there's a fish farm. There are fish farms in Asheville County.
Yes.
You've been down to Harry's.
Yes, I have.
And one day in October, Harry asked me to come out and help him harvest. So I did.
Really?
We put the nets in his ponds. He has 17 ponds down there, and dragged them out through it. It felt like Jesus in the Sea of Galilee to some extent. But he had an order for 9,000 pounds of bluegill to be shipped to New York City.
No kidding.
But he had to ship them live, which is not the best use of time or energy. But we don't have a fish processing center here.
Right.
So again, we have the ability, we have the land to raise fish. And I'm not just talking bluegill, perch. Ohio State's done a lot of research recently on perch to shrink the time from 18 months to 12 months from birth to market. We can do that here. Tilapia grow well here. If we have, and think, you like tilapia?
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
it's a very mild fish. Where is it from typically?
It's from the West, isn't it?
If you check out the package, most likely it will be Vietnam.
Yeah, everything's
Oh.
Vietnam.
Because well, there are other factors. They don't have the costs of living we do, and they pay their workers virtually nothing. And I don't want to get into the international issues, but my point is, fresh food is better.
Right.
And we can do that here. And
Well,
we
you
have
see.
the opportunity.
Yeah, because-
Now think about the jobs that we can create in this particular industry. We're not going to get large manufacturing jobs overnight, and we can't keep continuing to think that we're going to land a Ford or a GM
Right.
in the near future. But what do we have? We have agriculture, we have land, we have quality of life that can be used to start building
Sure.
different and a diverse economy here.
Let me go back a second, John. When I was a kid, of course, there wasn't zoning then.
That's right.
And my grandpa lived on Lake Road,
Yep.
and he raised chickens. And on Saturdays, we would go over there, chop off the heads, and defeather. What do you call it? Took their feathers off. It was not a pretty. When you have to do that, it kind of takes away the excitement about chicken. But that was our Sunday dinner. That would be our Sunday dinner, and he raised them from chicks to adults, and he was a big fisherman. We ate a lot of fish, so fish and chicken were a big part of our life. We don't have that anymore. Well, he's gone now, obviously,
Right.
but we don't have that that fresh fish. I mean, I pick up shrimp, and it's from Vietnam. And I love shrimp
Right.
or lobster. It's everything's Vietnam. Would there be a good chance of getting something like a processing plant?
We're working on it, and that's I'm chasing every opportunity to do
Good.
just that, because it ties in with the larger picture I have too. Our farmers, let's face it, we have tourism, we have a wonderful wine industry, we have this land, we have timber, we have it all. I feel that we need to keep working on what we already have and do it even better, especially the agriculture, because people are going to eat. There is a ready market if we can
Right.
tie in and loop into that market.
Right.
So I'm working definitely on that to bring in this processor as a way of lifting the curtain, if you will, to other things we might have. Now, do you remember too Dunbar's Glass Acres, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, tomatoes, shipped them everywhere in the United States. What do you suppose caused Dunbar's to close?
I have no idea.
It wasn't demand, because people still eat tomatoes, correct?
Oh, yeah, I love.
When did they close?
God, it's been a while.
And if they phased out late 70s, early 80s,
Yeah.
Shipping costs?
keep going.
Shipping costs?
They were open
Packaging.
year-round, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Which meant in the wintertime,
They had to run a greenhouse.
They had to operate the green, yeah.
the price of fuel. Natural gas went through the roof. Now think about your do you heat with natural gas? Think about your bill last month when it was so high. The use was high because the weather
Right.
was cold. Did you notice anything significant about your bill? I mean, you paid more, obviously, but was it as
Center
much
paid a
as you
lot more.
expected?
Yeah.
The price of natural gas is stabilized. In fact, it's declining because of the glut, thanks to this shale play that's taking place in the United States. Now, if we do this right, and that's why the injection well bill that I was telling you about last time, that is at the Legislative Service Commission as we speak. It's being drafted into bill form to do that right. My point is, if we can set aside some of our emotional arguments about the environment for a moment. If we could do this safely, think about the availability of natural gas to heat our greenhouses at a cheap price so that we can operate year-round, package year-round, ship year-round. We've closed the loopholes.
Yep.
Potentially it's there. And I know it's down the road, but we have to be pursuing those policies now.
See, and that's one of the things he's talking about was we also have the issue of fresh produce.
Yes.
And in fact, I'm going to a presentation on the hoop greenhouses that they're doing, and a friend of mine I went to school with is coming up to do a presentation on March 18th to the health committee. But that way we could have fresh produce all year round. And I
That'd
guess
be
these
nice.
hoop greenhouses
Hoop houses, are much more effective.
Are much more effective, easier to put up and maintain.
But who would do
Carlton
it?
Jackson, remember Carlton?
Carlton,
He's with
very
the
good.
company
He used to work
that,
with me.
and so I'm going to go to the presentation because that's our challenge. Is John's been there on Produce Day when we hand out produce. It's how many people are there. It's not, one, it's they need it. Two is the access to produce,
Right.
fresh produce.
Yeah.
And we're thinking I've tried for 2 or 3 grants to build a greenhouse on our properties that we own, and haven't been successful because we're in national competition for that kind of monies. But we're thinking this would be a great fit for us here if we could do that.
Would there be somebody out there then that would do it?
And that's the key. That's the key. In Middlefield right now, there's a young gentleman, he's in his 30s, early 40s, who has attracted a core group, and they actually have a greenhouse, hydroponics. It's actually mechanized, if you will. As the plants grow larger and take more space, this is like a conveyor belt. It actually opens up and allows them to, and I can't describe it well, but it allows them to have more space, and it's not labor intensive. And he ships every day fresh produce to Columbus, to Pittsburgh, to Akron, to Cleveland. And now granted, it's still a small operation. I mean, he's in the millions of dollars, which is small by produce standards.
Right.
But if we can do that, and we're trying to line him up to speak at this conference with David Marison. David's still working with him to finalize that. But if we can do that with, and I don't know, I don't remember if it's romaine lettuce or something. It's a specialized lettuce green that goes well with garlic. I'd have to. But the point is, they're able to grow this successfully and make a profit right in Middlefield.
Huh. Now, our grocery stores say, well, we have fresh vegetables that are shipped in, but they're shipped in from California.
Right.
So it really isn't fresh, but that wouldn't be either if we ship it out to...
No, but it increases the type and availability that you have to us. I mean, do you know how the other day we got produce in, and they were turnips. And you know how many people online didn't know what they were? And I don't know why, because they're not available all the time here. And I think that's the availability is the important thing. And I think John's point is this whole processing operation of food fits well for Ashtabula County.
Well, I love it.
It just
I think it'd
fits
be
well
great.
that we can help feed other people, that we can help and make money at it, employ people.
Now let me, just because this is new to me. So if Michelle and I want to, let's go get some fresh tomatoes, we would be able to do that, correct?
Yes.
Same with the fish and
The idea,
the chicken?
year round, then
like
we
we
have to
do.
build a market.
Go out to the processing plant to get our fresh ground beef or steaks or whatever you want. You have the same availability here.
Wow, that would be super.
Now, and yes, it makes us healthy because we also have to consider our health care issues in Ashtabula County. We have a vitamin D deficiency because we don't get enough sun. We have obesity problems. We have diabetes problems. So before we can really, well, in addition to moving ahead economically, we have to get healthier in order to think differently, to be more active. So it ties in. We need to produce and consume more of this local produce to help us in so many ways.
Wow.
Now there's more than it's greater than this though, Pat. These young kids, these millennials, are working from home. And research, I've been doing some research on this because for a teacher, 29 years, I marveled and was heartbroken how many of our kids moved away because of jobs. And I understand that. If we could have kept a third of them here how they could have reinvigorated our communities and strengthened our communities because they'd be close. What is the most important, who are the most important persons in your life right now?
My children and my grandchildren.
Thank you, the
And you got
grandchildren.
and both of them stayed home.
And both of I'm very fortunate. They're both here.
Very
Yes,
fortunate.
Very fortunate.
And right now, I mean, if Chris had to move away, you would understand,
I'd
but
have
you
to
would
move.
feel that longing.
Yeah.
And how many times do you see your grandchildren? Every time you can, right?
Right.
My point is, Pat, this millennial generation, because of the computer, has the ability to work from home. Our youngest son, for example, works from home 4 days out of the week. He only goes in the office 1 day. And there are others that work entirely at home.
Right.
Those people, those young people, are looking to move anywhere where there's a quality of life. Think of the bike trails, think of the 3 scenic rivers, think of the 3 lakes. Lake Erie,
2 state
Pymatuning,
parks.
state parks, the largest private lake in all of Ohio and roaming shores, and everything else that we have to offer, including this fresh produce, because the kids are more health conscious about that. My son is like a, oh,
Yeah, I know.
yeah. My point is, we can attract and retain with this technology our young kids that begin to rebuild from within. It's a long-term plan, but we have been given certain assets and we need to use them because we are so uniquely situated.
Right. Good stuff. Interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
So I work closely with the agricultural community and with farmers and that
You know, I
sort of
think
thing
that
you just said.
the fellow with the fish,
Isn't that
Harry?
amazing? That fire.
I think he was on the air with me. And,
Yeah, he was.
And then I went
It was
out
a while
there.
ago.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was right when we were
Should have him on
upstairs.
again.
They should.
Yes.
We've had John Parker on too, who
Oh
was
yes, from them.
very nice gentleman.
Yep.
Yes, John's a wealth of knowledge. when it
Yeah,
comes
he
to
is.
Agricultural community.
John, one of the big things that have been coming up because of this winter has been calamity days.
Yes.
Where are we at with that?
All right, I can tell you that as of last Wednesday, the House voted out a calamity bill proposal.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind that school districts already have 5 days built into their schedule for makeup.
Yes.
All right. So they make those days up. Part of the issue, though, was the testing. As I argued in committee, it doesn't do any good to add days on if we don't move the tests back in the calendar, the OAAs, the OGTs. So there's been some adjustments made there, too.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Good.
The problem was, in this winter, there are some districts in southeastern Ohio that if they're up to 14, 15 days, and even the 5 days made up, they're still looking at 10. And if you think about the need for those kids in those areas to work on the farm, and in our area, not only in agriculture, but to work in the tourism-related fields.
Right.
If our kids are not getting out, and I'm not saying education is the most important, I get that. But I also know that if the tourism industry had its way, we would be confined by a calendar that went after Labor Day and out by Memorial Day.
Right.
Because the tourism is a big industry in Ohio. My point is there's a balance. So here's the balance that was struck, and I think it's a very good balance. We added 2 more calamity days to the 5 to give schools a cushion. And what's more, schools, if they wish, can add a half an hour more to their day to make up that time this year as we move forward. Now next year, and as contracts expire, we're moving to hours instead of days.
Right.
Right.
And so that's going to give schools a lot more flexibility. But you're going to hear we added 4 more calamity days. Not quite true. 2 more to a total of 7 for the students, if schools need it. But the other 2 are teacher in-service days, professional days. As a former teacher, I can tell you that there were times I needed to collaborate with my colleagues to figure out curriculum, figure out testing, share best practice, and in a compressed schedule, telescope schedule, as we sometimes have, it's difficult to cut across school schedules. So those 2 extra days for staff, for development, I think are going to be very well spent, and I think that was a very good compromise between getting our students a quality education, which we want, and allowing staff to have the time to figure out how to get to those.
Let me go back about. I can't remember when Kent was on Kent House a couple
Yes,
weeks ago.
Yeah,
maybe,
I think it was.
And at that time he said, I thought he said, now I might be wrong, that we are going to be able to have 8 calamity days, 3 up on, and he goes, we've already used 7, so we only have 1 to use. That isn't the case then, under this new state.
All right.
Yeah.
The schools do make up those 5, and the contract, and I don't know Conneaut's contract that well, but it's already built in. The problem is when you go beyond those 5 that are in the calendar.
Right.
What do you do about that? I mean, you could say, well, we're going to make those up too.
Okay, do we make up those 5? I thought we were given those.
We've not made it. We've made over 5.
Over 5. So you
Over 5.
you go through your first 5, and
Right.
now you're making up.
Right.
But some schools we're looking at making
making
13 and 15.
Well, I think
Have to make
Ashtabula
up
is.
more.
Right.
Well, you know, if
Let
they're in
it-
double digits, that means your children are missing out on some
Right.
some education.
Let alone the
opportunity.
multiple 2-hour delays.
Right.
So, believe it or not, our schools in Northeast Ohio are in a lot better shape than Southeast Ohio. And that's where the initiative actually came from. Legislators in Southeast Ohio. If you think about Noble County, think about Washington County. When they get snow, they don't have the equipment. They're exceedingly rural. And in addition to that, with the hills, it is very, very dangerous, especially during icy conditions.
Right.
Now, we get ice, but if we're careful flat, you're going to stop sooner or later.
Sure.
Point of the matter is, that's where the initiative came from, and it gives them more flexibility. So, and that's what the key was. Allow schools the flexibility to make up these days and to be fair, because it was just a crazy winter.
So they do have the ability to make them up by adding a half hour to the school
Yes.
day. They have to, and then the development days. Because I
Right.
know my daughter-in-law is a teacher, and she said, you know, yeah, I loved having a snow day, but she says I get so behind in my other work. She brings home a lot of stuff, you know,
Of
as
course.
teachers do. But she says it puts them way behind on their work as well.
And they've
So
also taken, they added, what, an extra week for the testing.
Yes,
they
they
moved
that back.
the
moved
days.
that back.
Right,
That's
for the
good.
OAA and the
OGT.
OGT
Yeah.
slightly.
So I wonder, of course, you're probably not familiar with our schools here, but I wonder if what we will do come the end of May, if they will have to go into June for a couple of
I
days.
think they will,
You think?
unless he does the other option that the state's allowing them with the
Yeah.
half hours.
Yeah. I don't know. He
Yeah.
hasn't told me yet. He's coming back.
Well, and I know you've received a lot of calls about it. You know, why can't they not have the extra days off? But a lot of those are teacher in-service days when the kids are off. But when the kids aren't in school, the teachers are in school.
Weren't they talking
And
about
then-
the spring break?
And then they said take away their spring break. But you see, what John mentioned is a lot of this stuff from days to hours is because of union contracts. So they have their contractual obligations to consider.
That's what I
when they
kinda
do
thought.
this. Okay, and you know, a lot of people use that
They
time to
make
visit
plans.
relatives and do things, and you know, because it's the Easter was usually the Easter break, but
No, it's not though this year. It's an early
well,
break.
Easter's real
Easter's
late
late.
this year.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
in
April
April.
20th.
Mhm.
So, but you know, you have all those things going on too. I know it seems simple to a lot of people, but when you're managing union contract staff, making sure the kids
So in
are
other
safe.
words, what you're saying, Debbie, is, and I told this to one fellow. He goes, "Why don't you take away 3 days off of their spring break?" And I said, I think there probably is some regulations there. I would imagine with unions
And like I said, like as John, I don't know the contracts,
I don't
but
either.
there's all those things involved with the administration.
The problem
of
is
that.
when you set up a calendar,
For the
people
year.
make plans.
Busing,
And busing is a major component in this factor. But that's why they also build in these extra days. That you know that if, and my wife's in Geneva, and they're adding days on, they have to at the end. And that's not that's just the way it is, and you understand that. But to pick days, Pennsylvania is a good example. They build in days throughout the calendar as you go. And so you might have what looks like to be a 4-day weekend or a 3-day weekend with a Monday off or a Friday off. But if you need a snow day, everybody
They can
knows
use it.
going in, that's the day that's a makeup. Now, if you don't need it,
yeah.
then it's day off.
Yeah, and that's the call you got too about Pennsylvania to do. Well, they have a different calendar
Sure.
structure, so.
Sure.
But I like the flexibility that
Hours are
that
gonna
the
make a
house is
huge
going to
difference.
make a big difference. Yeah.
And I have to caution you, that passed the House, it's on its way to the
Senate.
Senate, which could change things.
Right,
Oh
right.
yeah.
My hunch is, though, the Senate had originally a 3-day edition. The House's proposal was a 4, and that we were ready to vote on the 4, and they they put a placeholder bill on the
Uh-huh.
floor, which tells me that I think there's been some negotiating between the House
House
leaders
and-
and the Senate. So
right.
I think the Senate's going to mirror that particular proposal that
That'd
we
be
sent
good. That
over.
way it'll get done quicker.
That's exactly.
That's what I was just gonna say. I mean, what about the time frame here? I mean,
Right.
Well,
We
the
get-
conference committee's already talking to each other.
Right.
That's, between the two House
Right.
and Senate. That'll be a
Right.
good thing.
Got a call the other day. I don't know whether either one of you two could answer this about the lighthouse. But remember, it was privately bought, and somebody wanted to know an update on it and if it was going to be used for anything. There were rumors about being a bed and breakfast or a restaurant. And I said, I don't think, because of the liabilities and that stuff out there. I think what I told the lady was, I think that they're going to use it for just for themselves, like a getaway type cottage thing. Have you heard anything?
No.
Not a word.
Not a word either.
But that has happened with some of the lighthouses that have been purchased along Lake Erie. I just saw in one of my Lake Erie magazines where the lady renovated the cottage or the lighthouse for her use as a
Really?
yeah
For themselves.
For themselves.
Did you see the one that's out in the western part of the lake? It's the old pilot house out of a boat, out of an oar boat that they've turned into a
yeah.
cottage. It's really cool.
Oh, I missed that.
Lake
Yeah.
Erie Living
Yeah.
magazine always has those updates on what different ones. But I haven't heard anything about ours.
No, I haven't either.
Maybe
I
someone
guess they
on
were
the
out
port
there.
knows, or...
Somebody said they were out there this past summer and they had people look at it and stuff. But
But
there
some
really
of them
was
have been
nothing
turned
in it.
into private use.
That's good. I think that's cool.
But they're still there. So they're still, they're still part of the
Yeah,
community.
yeah. Our lakefront, of course, a major part of our town here, John. It's Debbie and I remember when it wasn't. I mean, it was always there, but we didn't have the perch fishing that we had. Remember, we were kids. They didn't have perch fishing then.
Yeah, they did.
Well, they had it, but it wasn't
we
as
could go
abundant.
to the market and buy it, though.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
John, you gotta fix that. No,
Yeah.
I tried it. No one wants to hear it. But yeah, I remember going down to the market.
Yeah,
and-
on Friday nights. that
Friday
was
nights, and you could have fish, or you could buy fish to take
And there were
home.
commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
and then they took
Fleets.
that away from us in the 70s, probably. 70s, early 80s.
Keep in mind what happened to the health of the lake.
Right.
And
the lake
we remember.
was not good then.
And that brings up another point that came to committee. We're hearing in the House Ag Committee, SB 150, concerning the phosphorus emissions out in the western end of the lake, Grand St. Larry's and Grand St. Mary's and such. What I was going to say is in the central part of the lake, there's a dead basin. The algae blooms and such, and it's a great piece of legislation, I feel, because the farmers are taking it upon themselves. Farm Bureau's been actively involved in writing the legislation so that we clean it up on our own, police it ourselves before the feds come in and
do it.
really make
Right.
legislation
Right.
uneasy. But how does that affect us? If we have a healthy lake, a whole healthy lake, to increase fish spawning and that sort of thing. It's an investment in the future. We have to get it
Absolutely.
right. And it's not just the agricultural community. We've got to get our municipal areas like Detroit to do a better job with their sewage discharge and such.
Right.
I mean, there's plenty of issues to go
Yeah,
around.
there is.
Good morning, you're on the air. You have to shut your TV or radio off. Call back. Get that under control there.
But a lot of things are different when we were younger, Pat. So it's.
Definitely.
But-
It hasn't been that long
Yeah.
ago,
It'd
though.
be really awful nice to have a place where people could do public processing of their fish when they come in here to fish.
Oh, yeah.
But all that costs money and things like that. But I'm amazed at how many people come in here to fish on the weekend.
Oh, isn't it something?
That's another thing we as a community have to capitalize on.
Right,
How do
right.
we keep them here when they're here?
Right.
We have to offer more.
Good morning, you're on the air.
Hi, Mr. Patterson.
Yes.
I got a question. How long do you got to do with that $2.5 billion for Medicaid? They got to send it back, or do they give you a time limit?
The expansion.
Well, the Medicaid expansion was approved by the controlling board, and that decision will get us through this budget cycle. But come 2015, we're back to square one because either the controlling board's going to have to renew that decision or it's going to have to be agreed to by the legislature. And that's something that is going to be upon us really quick here.
Yeah, I thought they were fighting over that. that they didn't want it.
They were fighting over it.
Well, no, that is going to be a savings is more people. There was 275,000 Ohioans, in fact, 4,000 or 5,000 right here in Ashtabula County that will now qualify for the Medicaid expansion. And
Yeah, Kentucky's doing that.
yes, yes. So
And they got 350, almost 1 million people signed up.
Ooh.
And that's a Democratic governor. So they must be doing something right, isn't they?
yes, and even some of the Chamber of Commerce really put a lot of pressure on the governor and a lot of the legislators to do this because it makes good economic sense. In addition to the healthcare community that was interested in helping these people.
And if you need help with that, we have the Ohio Benefits Bank at the center that'll help you sign up for benefits that you're entitled to.
So that's good. I think it's worth it. You know, myself.
Yes.
It is.
I help with that Medicaid.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's good for people, you know, but I guess they don't think it's worth it. You know what I mean?
No, we'll get through this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
John, you have holding an audience today at the Human Resource Center for your people out there. Don't you have a?
No, that's next week,
It's next week.
Yeah.
March 1st.
Well, March 1st. I'm always there.
The first Monday of the
First
month.
Monday at 1 o'clock at the Human Resource
Okay.
Center.
And I did read in the paper that you had to cancel.
I had to cancel office hours today because I'm doing your show here. Then I'm headed down to Medina because it's a State of the State tonight.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I couldn't be in Ashtabula this afternoon because
Okay.
we have a day scheduled.
Well, I appreciate you coming
Yeah, I
out. It's
saw
a
that.
busy day
Yeah,
like
great.
that.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
interesting to hear the state of the state,
Mhm.
Yeah, it will be.
according to Kasich.
Yeah.
But I do have, I'm in Conneaut the first Monday of the month,
What time?
Which is
1 to 2:30
1 to
at the
2:30.
Human Resource, every Monday unless something crazy comes up.
Right.
Not that my schedule's crazy or anything.
Yes, it is.
The second Monday of the month, I'm in Chardon at 1 to 2:30 at the library.
Okay.
The third Friday of the month, I'm at the Senior Center in Geneva from 11 to 12:30. And the fourth Monday of the month, I'm at Ashtabula City Library from 1 to 2:30.
Wow. Do you have a good turnout for?
Yeah, there's always somebody there.
Always-
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
people call and ask us, if,
Yeah.
you know, do they need to make an appointment or could they just stop
They
in?
can walk in and
they
it's
can
an
walk
open
in.
door.
Good.
Yeah.
While we're taking the first Monday, everyone, produce to people is Monday. The produce distribution is
The
Monday.
produce is coming
I
up this
just thought
coming
of
Monday.
that. That's the first March 1st. Was that
You're
March?
busy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a busy week.
No, actually, it's
March
it's
1st?
March 2nd.
Third.
Second.
Third.
Third.
Is Monday.
Thank you.
Because oh my
First
gosh,
is
the first is
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Believe it or not, we
All
got
right.
through February.
Oh, my birthday's a
almost.
week from Saturday.
Oh boy, I have to get you a present.
You have to get me a present.
Well, John, Debbie, I thank you so
March
much for
3rd.
coming in. I know you got a lot on your plate today, but thank you so much for taking the time out.
You're welcome.